Hey, what's up?
Guess what I got yesterday?
Fried chicken at Popeyes.
No, I got a gold star from my dentist. A sticker.
Nice.
Ooh.
I got a gold star sticker, boys. Let's go.
How do
Gold
you
star.
achieve this?
By flossing every day and taking care of my
Flossing and
mouth.
brushing.
Yep. I mean, I didn't go to the dentist for like years, like prior and then during the pandemic. And then finally last year, I went and I had to have a lot of work done. And I don't want to ever go through that again because on one of those visits, I experienced the top 3 worst pains I've ever experienced in my entire life. So like everything my dentist has told me to do, I've done. And they're like, this is looking very good. No need for a follow-up. We'll see you in 6 months for a cleaning. And I was like,
Amazing.
let's go.
Teeth stuff sucks so much.
Yes.
None of my baby teeth fell out. So I went and had 4 or 5 times, I can't remember, to the oral surgeon to get my teeth pulled because I had 2 rows of teeth because my adult teeth were coming in, but the baby teeth were just still hanging on for dear life. It was terrible. And then my sister, she didn't have as bad of a problem, but she got teeth pulled once and she's in the recovery room and the doctor walks in and just the look on his face was something horrible went wrong. He forgot to pull one of the teeth. So she had to go back under. I can't imagine how that felt, but I had such dread of getting teeth pulled because one of the times they like knocked the mask off my face while they were doing stuff. So I'm starting to wake up and I just like, I can see them and I feel this like crazy, like no pain, but this like, wow, they're really yanking on this tooth or whatever. And I was like, maybe I'm not supposed to be feeling this right now. And I was like, oh my God. And luckily they like readjusted and put me back under or whatever. But I was like, I hate this. I hate every moment of this. So luckily since then, when I was a kid and all that, it's been good ever since. But that kind of stuff really makes you want to take care of your teeth.
Yeah.
A whole lot better.
Lasting trauma.
Yeah.
I don't know. I had a bad dentist when I was younger. I was scared of going to the dentist for years.
Mm-hmm. I can understand that. The star thing reminded me of when I was like in grade school, we got this new teacher and they'll ask a question to the whole class and expect somebody, the overachiever to answer a question or something. And I forget, it was science class. I never cared or whatever. And then he was talking about, what happens like if water is on your skin and then it goes away, you feel cold. Like, what is the term for that? And it was like, I raised my hand and said evaporation or something. And I like didn't know for sure if I was right or whatever. He would do this thing where if you answered a question that he was impressed with, he would like do this crazy thing where he warmed up and then on the corner of the chalkboard, he'd like draw this crazy star and then your name would be on the board. You were just very special for like a month at a time. And there was only like, one kid got that a month or something. And I remember that very fondly. I was like, heck yeah. So I hope you had an equal experience at the dentist.
I did. The front office ladies gave it to me and it gave me the biggest grin. And I peeled the sticker off and I put it on my shirt and I like half skipped out.
You're going to be on their TikToks and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Like I'm so happy I get to leave here and not come back.
Well, I want to give you a different kind of gold star, Andrew.
Warm your arm up. Here we go.
After that talk we had a couple episodes ago about direct routes, I was working on one of my projects that I've been working on. And it's one of these projects that kind of inherited from another developer where it's, the architecture of it is not anything you would ever choose to build it that way. So like I'm working in a section of the code where I had like, there's 3 different types of users that could end up needing to hit this link. And they all have 3 completely different pages to go back to if they've gone through here. And they're like, I don't want to write this logic in the views and crap. And I was like, wait, I've got direct routes now, thanks to Andrew. I can just do it that way. So like, it saved me so much pain this past week. I'm just like, thank you for showing me direct routes.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a perfect example, though, of like when this kind of comes in handy is when you have 3 different user types and 3 different things need to happen. It's a perfect example. So I'm glad it came in handy. Just don't come back to me in like a month or two like, I screwed up the app because now everything's a direct route and I can't.
If anything, this application could probably benefit from just using direct routes more, honestly.
There you go.
That's good.
I've done something good.
Heck yeah. I made a screencast last week on direct routes that should come out. Maybe is out by the time this episode goes live. The other thing I didn't think about, because I was using an example of like, if I'm linking to, say, a GitHub page, the first instinct might be just write it. You could obviously just do it in your view, but if you make a helper out of it, that makes a lot of sense, especially if it takes arguments like your username and repository. But what I ended up doing was out of the blue in this, while I was recording, I was like, what if you had a redirect inside your controller? You can't use that helper unless you include the module and stuff. So the other cool part is like the direct routes are accessible anywhere your regular routes are included, which if you've included like the URL helpers in your models, you could use it there too, which sometimes can be useful if you're broadcasting stuff with Turbo or whatever. But that was cool. And then I discovered that, did you realize that a direct route, if it returns a string, which it expects to be a full URL, my example was GitHub. So I have a direct GitHub route. You can use that to return a full GitHub URL as a string. But if you call GitHub path, it automatically parses that string and strips out the protocol and the host and the port and everything. So it just gives you the path for you. So you don't even have to do any logic there.
That's nice.
That was cool.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either. I was like, this is neat because like potentially my app might have like mirrored routes or something to match GitHub, even if they're namespaced or whatever. It's like you could use the path helper from the direct routes as well instead of like the full URL version, which is cool. So it's pretty much like incredibly flexible for that reason, where it's more or less whatever you can pass over to URL for is all functional. So you can do lots of different things like an array or a string or a hash of controller in action and ID or whatever. It's really awesome.
That's dope. I didn't know about that. I mean, the other week when we were talking about it, you were like, couldn't this just be a helper? But I guess that's actually a really good example of like, yeah, it could be a helper, but then you
get more functionality.
You get a lot more functionality by not having it in a helper.
Yeah, because the other problem with helper is I sort of glossed over this in the screencast because it gets a lot more in the weeds, but the URL joining of a host and paths just like doesn't work like you would expect it to. So you might do like github.com, join Andrew M codes, join repository name. If you just like pass all those to join, the paths will override each other. It can join them together so long as like the middle one has an ending or trailing slash or whatever. And so it's like, it just doesn't work the way you expect it to, because sometimes you'll pass stuff over and then the repository name overrides your username or whatever. And it's like, okay, that's strange. The addressable gem, I think, handles it a little bit better, but it still has the same stuff. So it's really like designed for 2 arguments, more or less, of just the host plus a path. And then you also get the benefits too of like the direct route. You can pass in like query params or an anchor or whatever else, and you can inject that stuff in. Whereas you have to replicate all that stuff in your helper. So it's just like naturally a better fit. I just felt like the naming of direct route didn't really, I don't know. It would have been nice if it was like custom route or something, custom route helper.
It's almost like
something like that.
Like a proxy or like an alias.
Yeah, almost. My confusion was purely just like when I think about routes and defining those, I think about matching requests. So then like direct GitHub is not going to match a route that is to /GitHub in your app. And that's where I was always lost in that. So it may be something like that could be added to Rails too, like just an alias or to rename direct to like custom helper or something like that. But it's probably niche enough of a feature that so long as it gets documented well enough, then, and I think the documentation could certainly stand for a little bit more better examples, because I don't think any of them have like a conditional like if statement in there. That would certainly help. When your app breaks in production, you want to quickly understand and fix it, not sift through the logs for the next hour. That's where Honeybadger comes in. Honeybadger notifies you of errors, outages, and performance issues as they occur and helps you respond instantly when your systems go down. When you need to dig deeper, Honeybadger's advanced query engine helps you reach into your logs and grab just the information you need. With error tracking, performance and uptime monitoring, log management, and support for over 10 languages, Honeybadger is the best tool to gain real-time insights into your application's health and performance. Best of all, it's free to get started and setup takes less than 5 minutes. Be sure to bookmark honeybadger.io. That's www.honeybadger.io.
Someone is screwing something with a large power tool.
Is this a euphemism?
I have no idea what's been going on in this neighborhood, but I do know that they laid fiber cable last week. So
Nice.
we're moving now. They've been laying it all over the area, and finally, like, they laid it in this neighborhood. I'm like, sweet, dude. I would love to not have to use Cox internet anymore.
Yeah. What's your like up and down speeds?
It's only like 500 or 700. It's not a lot, but I never have needed more.
I mean, that's good for downloads. Usually it's your upload that's like 30 megabytes.
Yeah.
Or megabits.
I have no idea what that one is, but
You don't upload screencasts all the time like I do, then you probably don't need it too much.
I've always had problems like when you're on internet, when I've lived with roommates where multiple people in the house are streaming stuff, then you kind of get in trouble.
Because they're torrenting movies and crap.
Yeah. Or like I had a roommate who would always have Netflix on, and like, not that I'm judging her because I am kind of the same way with YouTube, but it's like if everyone in the house is doing that, that's where you run into trouble. And so since I'm just the only person here on this internet, if I'm having trouble, I just turn something off, but I never do.
Like security cameras, if they back up to the cloud, like that can take quite a bit of bandwidth just streaming up. And if you only have 30 megs or something upload, then like a couple cameras will pretty quickly saturate that if you're using your computer as well. So yeah, I love having a gig symmetric. I keep checking to see if they ever are going to offer like 2 gigs or 5 gigs or something like you see on the coast or whatever. But I don't really think that the Midwest really, I mean, Kansas City was one of the first like Google Fiber cities or whatever. So like, I guess we still get some of that. Yeah,
like I lived in the suburbs of Kansas City, and like they built it out to a certain point, and then they gave up on it for a long time and didn't expand it. They weren't taking on new customers.
Didn't they sell that off or something?
Yeah,
recently?
It's owned by private equity now.
It was a nightmare and really frustrating to be in the area, but it never got close enough to where I could get it.
It sounds like typical Google fashion of launching something. Just try it out, then abandon it. But AT&T and a lot of the other places have really been expanding fiber, which is great. So the US has been surprisingly behind on that. So it's good. We're finally catching up in 2026, but still have a long ways to go. I was just surprised because we live out in the farmland and we have fiber out here. We're still not on city sewer and natural gas and all that, but like, we're close enough that I guess they managed. But CenturyLink, had all their old equipment and stuff, and then they started expanding into fiber. And for whatever reason, don't ask me why, they sold off their fiber business to private equity or whatever. So like we're using this other brand now, but it was originally CenturyLink. But I was like, why would you sell off your most forward, future-proof part of the business to somebody else? What are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense.
They must have given them an offer they couldn't refuse.
Apparently, it just doesn't make any sense. Crazy. That'll be fun though. Now you can go torment noobs and then you can live stream it all, and
that's what I'm looking for.
You can live stream your entire life.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put a camera in my office that's like, here's me working all day long, and occasionally I'll look over my other monitor and be like, what's going on, chat?
Did you ever see Justin TV back before it became Twitch?
No, I was before my time.
Yeah, you weren't even born yet, probably.
I do know about Justin TV though. It was like there was one guy who ran it, right? And
Justin Kahn.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I just watched an interview with him recently, but yeah, those were like wild times because there was another thing that was somebody else I forget who it was. Jason Calacanis was involved at some point, but like, yeah, somebody else that like live streamed their life and 24 hours a day kind of stuff. It's just like weird times back then when, like I could carry cameras and a battery and an internet connection.
Yeah. I was watching, there's a really popular streamer on YouTube named iShowSpeed. And like, he was like doing streams all throughout Africa. And it was interesting to like learn the tech behind it, like how they were using like Starlink and like, these relays and like, backups on backups, and to be able to go across an entire continent with good bit rate is kind of crazy.
Yeah. And especially Africa, where I don't think the infrastructure is near as reliable as a lot of other areas of the world. That's amazing. Yeah. Starlink is probably critical for something like that.
Andrew talking about this trans-African trip that he's doing. And like, I know him from professional wrestling because he showed up on multiple big events and just gotten hit with some crazy moves. And like, I didn't even know what he was from. I just knew he was some celebrity from somewhere else coming into wrestling and getting hammered by people.
He's a really big streamer. He's probably the biggest in the world. He's done like tours across Africa, across the United States. He's about to do one in the Caribbean. I don't really watch his stuff, but I see his clips and like, dude, this guy's living a really cool life.
And he reminded me that the other day, I was very disappointed to find out that you have like on your YouTube page, like the about or whatever is like contact us for business partnerships or whatever that everybody's got. I never receive any of those, but I did get one from what claimed to be Jimmy and Beast Industries and wanted to do a collaboration. I was like, yo, Go Rails and Mr. Beast collab, teach them Rails. This is how we get the kids into Ruby on Rails.
He
right?
probably thought you were like a train guy. He's like, I need to blow up trains.
Right. Yeah. It was funny because you look at the email and who it's from, and it's like some random Gmail address. And it's like, oh, clearly this is just spam from somebody doing some phishing. But I was like, we could be so cool.
Yeah.
Just cool with the kids. Whoa. Just saw DHH tweeted that the size of Rails World. So it just got announced today that the CFP is open for Rails World, but he said that there's room for 1,200 people this year, which is almost double because it was like 750 or something from the last couple of years. So that's huge. That'll be amazing.
Yeah. We kind of talked to Amanda about this, and it's like we just have way bigger like venues here.
And it's Austin. Like there's definitely cool places to take it and whatever. So that's awesome. Lots of AI focus this year. I saw on the CFP. Let's see. Rails 8 production, AI native development with Rails, Rails plus AI / agentic systems, trust, security, and reliability, focus on the front end, deep technical Rails, the competitive advantage of Rails, and the business of Rails were the main themes they're looking for.
Those are all good.
All sounds good. And, I think the time is much better for the AI talks these days too, because like what we saw at Rails Conf, none of them were like in production enough. I was just listening to the talk with, what was his name? Brian Scanlon from Intercom on the On Rails podcast, and like them talking about, we have like 20% of PRs just merged automatically by Claude and stuff. Like that's really cool. And it makes a lot of sense how he's explaining it. Like if this is just a docs change or like a linting change or like some easy, safe thing to merge, then like, why do we need a human involved for this kind of stuff? And it's a really interesting thing to hear how they're using and growing their teams and productivity and stuff at Intercom. Definitely have to give that a listen. But I feel like that stuff's all matured so much in the last year that it is so much more practical to have conference talks and stuff about this now that there are many more patterns and better tools, and AI in general just understands things better and can produce better work and whatnot. Most of the talk submissions we got were way too vague, and it all felt a little immature at RailsConf, but now it feels like there's just so many good examples of real teams doing real good stuff with AI these days that it does make a lot of sense. So yeah, I'll be curious to see how all those talks and what the like final schedule looks like. Maybe there will be some new Rails, is Maine on working towards 8.2? I assume that like if there's some major cool thing that we want to make it 9, they'll skip it like they have in the past. But
Yeah.
I'm assuming I haven't heard of many new upcoming Rails features or whatever. So curious what will end up getting down the pipeline from the benevolent dictator of Rails.
I am excited for that Rails query thing to come out though.
Oh yeah. What does they call it? Is it command?
Rails query command.
Command, yeah. Yeah, because they're like not rake tasks or whatever. They're commands, but they're sort of like that. You want to explain that to anybody who hasn't seen it?
I think we talked about it already.
Did we?
Yeah, because I literally posted it 10 minutes from right now, Thursday, last week or whatever.
Or maybe somebody hasn't listened to that episode. Now you have to go back and listen to that one.
Mm-hmm.
Are you tired of babysitting your job queues? Let us do it for you. JudoScale monitors and autoscales your job queues so you can stop babysitting and get back to coding. We support Sidekick, SolidQ, GoodJob, and just about every other job backend in Rubyland. And of course, we autoscale your web services too. JudoScale scales up your apps faster than any other autoscaler, so requests, timeouts, and backed up job queues are mitigated before they become a problem. JudoScale has a free plan you can use forever, so there's literally no risk, whether you're on Heroku, AWS, Render, or any other cloud platform. Visit judoscale.com and get your job queues under control.
I'm curious if we'll see any more stuff like that. I know that was one of the things they were talking about internal at Intercom was like, we're looking at this, like we have all this data in so many different systems and like our teams used to go right into the Rails console and like grab data from there and normalize it or whatever, you know, do calculations, get the data they need out of it. And he was just saying like, you know, why don't we just like give Claude access to read only the data in production so that people could use that? And he was using it like himself and then got looking and was like the top 5 users or whatever, or like non-technical, like they're not developers. And it just gives access to the data to people who wouldn't normally be able to write active record queries or SQL queries or whatever, Ruby code to analyze stuff. And it's like, well, Claude could do it for us, so why not? And if it's read only and the person has like access to that data, because obviously we don't want necessarily anybody to be like extracting data from production. So yeah, I was like, that's awesome. You know, this stuff is now getting to the point where it's really, really powerful for non-technical people, which is amazing because you were going to have to be tasked with, hey, Andrew, can you make a dashboard that makes these specific queries whenever you have time? You end up finally having time after 2 months, but turns out they actually need a little bit different data or more data. And then you got to be pulled off that. And then, oh, we actually need 5 different other things that are similar, but also different.
Yeah, I was going to say,
You know,
then they changed their mind about what exactly they need. And
exactly. And now like, it doesn't matter. They can just, they're empowered to go get that data themselves, which is super freaking cool.
Yeah. Or you can run it in the background while you're doing other stuff. Like I had someone reach out to me the other day asking about a data question. And I was like, I have no idea. I was like, but we do have something like Intercom where we can query a read-only replica of the database. And so I like put all the questions she had into a prompt and sent it off to Claude. And while I continued to work on what I needed to, and then when it was done, I came back and I was like, yeah, it looks like this attribute means this. And then you can use this and infer off of this record to join here to get that data. I was like, and I didn't have to do all that. And I'll be the first to admit, I am not the best at raw SQL. Like I grew up on active record. So I can't just write raw SQL like Jason can as quickly.
I feel similar where like Rails is abstracted so much of that for me, or I'm like super advanced SQL stuff. No, not good at that. But like what's good now is you can just ask AI to help put those queries together for you. So you know what, Andrew? You will never need to be in the weeds like that ever.
I know, right? See, I knew if I just held off long enough.
Exactly. This is where procrastination pays off.
Oh man, you'll love to see it, dude. I love to see it. Because, you know, it doesn't work out for me a lot. But when it does, I'm like,
when it does,
you see?
Once every 10 years.
Once every year or two.
Now you just defer everything to AI. So like not only do you not have to touch code anymore because Claude will do it all for you, you don't even have to work at all because you just forward every message you get in Slack or email off to Claude and then just have it respond as if it were you.
Well, if you're using Claude Cowork or whatever, you don't even have to do that because Claude will all connect to your Linear and your Slack and your Google Docs and whatever. And you'd be like, hey, what was that one person asking about last week? And it's like, oh, yeah, I think you're probably talking about this. I'm like, yep, there it is.
And then you just collect your salary and you haven't done any work for the last 3 months.
And I use the remote control. So I just lay in bed scrolling TikTok and, every once in a while I flip on my phone to the other app and I, tell Claude, yes, I accept that. And I flip back.
I was watching the framework announcement this week. The one new product they announced that was like not a laptop or computer was like a wireless keyboard with a touchpad on it. If you use your framework desktop at your TV, it's a new, replacement for, I feel like Logitech's the only one that had a wireless keyboard and touchpad like that.
Yeah.
That at least was popular. But this week I saw Wes Boss and I use Logitech, like the MX Master mouse, but the Logitech options software was like down this week. So you couldn't use your mouse.
Oh, so that's why my thing wasn't working.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden one day I couldn't I have buttons to like click back and forth on things.
And they don't work.
And they didn't work. And I was like, what the freak is going on? And it's not the first time either.
So yeah, and that Logitech options thing has like AI crap built into it. And it's like, I just want you to configure what the buttons do on my mouse. And it's like a gig or more to be installed. It has to be running. It has to have an internet connection apparently because it was down and that stuff wasn't working. So it is pure garbage that Logitech is pushing out there. And from what I understand, like that stuff your mouse doesn't actually have storage. So it doesn't know to keep those bindings or whatever that you've customized. Keychron, who makes those dope wireless mechanical keyboards, they started as like a Kickstarter back in the day. Now they have like 100 different freaking keyboards, but they have like an MX Master shaped mouse and it actually stores that configuration on device. So you can like plug it into a different computer and it just works like you always expected it to, as it should. But apparently too, there's a better mouse, better touch tools.
Oh yeah, better touch tool. I have that.
Yeah, there's a couple of those.
Anymore,
you can uninstall the Logitech options garbage and just use better touch tools.
Yeah.
To configure that. So that's what I'm going to be doing too.
Better touch tool is so powerful.
I just want something simple. I just want to do some very basic mapping of these buttons on here. I don't need anything else.
Well, the nice part about Better Touch Tool is I'm pretty sure you can configure the buttons to be different based on the application that you were focused on as well.
That is awesome. I know that like that, I believe, was one of those things that you could do in the Logitech options, but like, terrible. So I'm sure that's a much easier thing. What's the name of that display tool as well? There's something like that.
Display Buddy?
Better Display is the thing. Because what's cool about it is if you don't have a 5K display and you've got 4K monitors with your Apple stuff that it doesn't like scale properly, then you can adjust that and all kinds of other settings. And it's actually cool because when you like change the screen brightness, you can see that it's like 94% times 257 nits and see exactly whatever your display brightness is and all that stuff. That like it's just kind of, you see that on the spec sheet, but you don't actually ever really know like how many nits do I actually need on a day-to-day basis in my office or whatever. It's like kind of automatic normally, but it's cool to see all that stuff.
We should probably mention that the Rails survey is now out. So all of our listeners should be
that out yesterday.
Adding us as their top podcast, even if you don't listen.
Yeah, I saw Hatchbox is now an option in one of the deployment questions for the first time, which is exciting. We're making progress. So that's cool. I thought they did that survey every year, but the last one was 2024. So it looks like they do it every other year.
I thought it was every year too.
Yeah. I don't know why I thought it was, but it didn't look like it. I don't know. Rails survey. The results 2024, 2022, 2020, 2018. So it looks like every 2 years, except for the very first one was 2009 to 2012. That's always fun to look back on and see all the stuff. I know there were a few questions that had like the version manager had like me's in there a couple times, still does, as it looks like. And then some of the other ones had like duplicates as well, but I'm sure those will get it polished up, or I'll have to hit up Robbie and mention it.
Get Claude on that.
Yeah, right. Yep, definitely get your stuff in. I forget. It's open for a while, but so you don't forget it, answer stuff, because this is really interesting to see the trends. And last year, as like Kamal started having its debut and everything, and it's cool to see how quickly it took off because it's now built into every new Rails app and whatever else. It's free. So I always like seeing what the Rails community is running for Ruby versions. Like people are actually really up to date sometimes, or maybe a breaking change in Ruby came out. And so it's like everybody's slower to upgrade this year or whatever. Fun stuff. But yeah, I'll probably have the pull request up for this by the time this episode goes live. But we've got, what is it? The third follow-up to the Getting Started guide. I'm working on that, or have been, and it's basically ready. I think I'm going to add one more feature in, but we, in the Getting Started guide, did like the e-commerce store kind of as a replacement for the blog example, but more modern, more real world stuff. But it was like, we have products and users, and products have images and rich text descriptions with action text. Then we added like Rails authentication so that admins are separated from regular customer users and they could go edit the products without having to do it in the Rails console. We did all like the extra stuff that Rails authentication doesn't do, like update your password or your email or delete your account, that type of stuff. And then last one I finished was adding wish lists, which was fun. So like you could go, oh yeah, one of the features we did at the beginning was like subscribers. So if a product goes out of stock, you could put in your email address to get notified when it's back in stock. And we had like an inventory feature. So you could just say, we have 1,000 t-shirts in stock, and then email everybody about that. But the wish lists were the last thing we added. And now we're doing product reviews. So we got a review model. I think the feature I'm going to add that I haven't done yet is probably add images. So you can upload like a photo of you and wearing the t-shirt or whatever, because that's pretty common. But then the fun thing was like sort of building out the UI. So there's like quite a few little tricky things. So if you want to do the star rating radio buttons and do them from 1 to 5 stars without actually showing the radio buttons, you do like those as labels, but you got to put them in reverse order because CSS only allows you to select subsequent elements. So if you render the radios as 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, when they click the 4, you can have 4 marked as gold and 3 and 2 and 1, as long as they're in reverse order. But then displaying that, you can use Flexbox to reverse them. So it goes from 1 to 5. So there's some like fun, tricky stuff that we did for that. And then built like a custom callback counter cache-esque thing to keep like track of the average rating anytime a new review was added or deleted or updated. And then built out like the little bar graph on the side. So you can see like 37% of reviews were 5-star, 20% were 4-star, and so on. And click those and filter the reviews and stuff. So it turned out pretty good. I'm very happy with it. It's probably going to be similar in length to the wishlist guide, but it's been fun to like just continue on that same project and add more features that you expect, and kind of like just see that there may not be much novel stuff in this one, but we're just reusing the stuff you've learned about associations and database queries and active record scopes, because we need the filters for like anything with a 4-star rating. Pull me those reviews and whatever. So it should be live for people to review pretty soon. And then I don't know how long we'll have it open, like a month or something for reviews and comments and tweaks. And then hopefully it'll be up and merged soon.
Congrats.
I'm glad that it's like, the blog was just kind of a short, almost sales pitch for Rails, which is good. But when you like want to learn Rails for the first time, you really need something that's like sort of that length for the first couple days, but you sink your teeth into a few more complex things and get a better feel for the framework, and like reinforcement learning helps a lot with that. Just need to see like build the associations 17 times. And then you're like 18th time, you're like, I don't even need help. I can do this. I've memorized this. That I think is helpful. But of course, now you could just tell, hey, Claude, I need an e-commerce store. I need wish lists and product reviews. Don't make any mistakes.
Gotta include that part.
We could make a PR that deletes these tutorials and replaces them with just that.
Might as well, right?
That would be hilarious. I'm going to do a separate PR, but I think Jeff said Mies was going to do August or something as the official, like, this is good and now an actual feature for having the precompiled Rubies. But I might send a PR to do that sooner than then. I'm not sure. I just don't want to like do some churn on that tutorial. But like, if people could just have a 30-second install, it's probably worth doing today. And then if one minor adjustment needs to be made when he like officially makes that a feature, that's not a big deal. We'll do that in August or whenever, if anything even changes.
Yeah.
I imagine that like config option will just go away, if anything. So it'll just be like a delete of a line. It's like, this isn't needed anymore. Voila. So yeah, I think that'll be killer. Your first experience learning Rails now will be install Mies, install Ruby, and both of those complete in about 30 seconds or less. Heck yeah.
So nice.
It'll be so good. And you'll have YJIT and everything pre-compiled. It's just going to be sweet.
Well, ZJIT's out soon, right?
Yeah, Ruby Kaigi's going on right now. I saw somebody posting about JIT stuff on Blue Sky. I can't remember where, but I haven't seen much of what's been talked about at Ruby Kaigi. Would love to go to that one day.
Yeah, same. One day.
Just need to record a remote Ruby over there and we've got an excuse to do it, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Is that all?
I mean, that's all I need.
Well, gentlemen, anything else?
Nope.
Can't think of anything. You just have to get your mouse fingers ready to click on that refresh button for, was it May 12th is when the Rails World tickets are open?
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be slightly easier to get one since there's almost double the amount of tickets.
Hopefully. That'd be nice because I've never successfully gotten one from their website. Well,
and I've been the cheat is you could get one today if you
by paying more.
If you pay for one of the corporate sponsored tickets. It's not quite double the price. It's like $1,300 or something.
How am I going to afford my tokens then?
Well, I was listening to something. They were talking about how like teams had been like, holy crap, we're spending more on tokens than this person's salary. They sold us on this is going to make our team, much more efficient, which we just assumed was make them cheaper. But actually, no, twice as expensive.
Yeah, I might have read the same thing because I read something that was like, our AI costs got so high that we just hired 2 new developers so that we could bring the cost down. I'm like, so now we're going the other way, right? We need to hire developers because this AI thing is way too expensive.
We need the slow ones, the human ones.
Yeah.
The me-based ones.
Limited context window.
Very limited.
Yeah, 5-minute limit for me.
Yeah, if that.
If.
We'll catch you guys next week.
Peace.